All right, welcome back. Well, we're turning attention now to Zamfara. So we've got Ahmed Maraduk, former commissioner for Commerce at Zamfara State, joining us via Zoom. Good morning. Thank you for joining us today on the program. We also do have Abdullahi Shinkafi, who is the Honorable Special Advisor on Intergovernmental Affairs to the Zamfara State Governor. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today. Well, Honorable Shinkafi, let me start with you. Listening to the governor there, first, when he spoke about his thinking, suggestion that there should be a state of emergency declared in northern Nigeria, what do you think of that? I mean, how is that? I mean, do you see that as a solution that will address these concerns?
Well, the issue of insecurity in northern Nigeria is highly alarming, and it's not in doubt. In Nigeria, the issue of security, the issue of insecurity is going at the galloping rate, and there is need for total military action in the northern Nigeria to fight crime and criminalities, and to flush out the sponsors of these criminals in the northern Nigeria. Not even in the northern Nigeria. The issue of insecurity in Nigeria is a national phenomenon. In the west, in the south, even in the north. So, but if you look at the situation in the northwest, we are highly concerned or bothered by the issue of armed banditry, which Zamfara is not an exception. And if you look at the north central issue of armed bandit, herdsmen and farmers clashes, and so even religious crisis in the part of Jos. So when you look at the northeast, the issue of insurgency is there for the past 12 years, Boko Haram insurgency. So the call by the Zamfara State government, Governor, Dr. Bello Matol, is long overdue. With the present situation we're having in the northwest, there is serious escalation and resurfaction of armed banditry activities across the region. So I think the call for declaration of the state of emergency and development of more military forces, airports, and the military, and even some police. Okay. To curtail the issue of criminality in the Zamfara state. Okay, I'll bring you Mr.
Maradun. Honorable Shinkafi, just a moment. I'll bring you Mr. Maradun, but I need to follow up on something you said and perhaps get more clarification, because it's been a major discussion, and it's a talk about armed bandits. A lot of people, security experts, will say that giving them that tag is quite tricky. It doesn't quite address the problem. How about call them terrorists, so they are viewed from that light and action is taken from that light? How did, the region or the state come about the term bandits? Is that what they really are? What informed that kind of tag and not terrorists?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, Honorable Shinkafi, that's for you. Follow up on, you've used the term armed bandits.
Yes, the issue of armed banditry. The issue of the armed banditry, it is the term which was generally classified those group of criminals that involve kidnapping, cattle rustling, and armed robbery, and collection of ransom from the relation of the captors and the ransom of the victim of the kidnapped victims. So why I cannot classify them terrorists? There was not any proclamation from the federal government that declared them terrorists. But if you look at even the general language given or declared by the federal government on Boko Haram, they were declared terrorists, and that was the general name. But on this issue of armed banditry, I take you back to the history. It was the beginning of this armed banditry started from herdsmen and farmers clashes, and then turned to rural banditry on cattle rustling, and now metaphors to kidnapping, killings, and the collection of ransom. So I cannot precisely declare them or prescribe them terrorists. But all I know, they are the gangs of criminals. And they were committing a crime against the innocent people in the Northwest. So
okay,
that's it.
Let me begin Mr. Maradun now, just to at least weigh on that, and then we'll widen the conversation. So, Mr. Maradun, people say the name you give a thing or group is quite important. And I mean, it's from a name you approach anything. So, regarding this term or tag, bandits, armed bandits, marauders, kidnappers, do you think the tag that has been given so far, which is bandits, has helped solve the problem largely? Or do you think it should be escalated beyond that?
Before I answer that question, let me respond, maybe shed some light to the call for the state of emergency by His Excellency, the State Executive Governor of the Zamfara State. I want to believe that it is a step forward for the Executive Governor, Bello Motowale, to call for state of emergency, because this is a government that has been in perpetual denial of the gravity of the situation we are. But now that they have agreed that the situation has reached that stage, I think it's a sort of a step forward. But what I only have some reservation is, why declaring state of emergency for the whole northern Nigeria? It is not all the states in the northern Nigeria that are facing the difficulties and problems we are facing in the same magnitude with the Zamfara state. So I think I would rather suggest that His Excellency should speak for his own state and his own government, and allow other governors to speak for their own state. Then, about the issue of naming, tagging the name, whether they are called herders, bandits, or terrorists, of course, it has some implications. But I think it is not the issue of name that matters. What are they doing? And how are they supposed to be treated? That's all. This issue of there is misleading intent in calling them herders farmers clash now. Yes, I agree. Historically, there is connection between herder farmers clash with what metamorphosized to today level of banditry and incessant killings of innocent citizens. But it is no longer a farmer herder clash. It's a pure criminality, and it should be treated as such. Whether they are terrorists or not, we need them flushed out of our land. We need peace. That's all we want. And I think if calling them terrorists is the only way that the federal government can come in and intervene properly and flush them out, let them be called terrorists. Are they not terrorists? What are the terrorists doing that they are not doing? There is nothing. The only difference between them and terrorists is that the terrorists claim to be maybe promoting certain ideology or religion. Falsely. Of course, falsely. But as far as the killing and kidnapping, raping is concerned, these people are worse than the Boko Haram. Presently, as I'm talking to you.
So you think
in the out.
So you think that the bandits should be named terrorists and be approached as such?
Whether they are named terrorists or not, they should be treated as criminals as they are. They may be even worse than the terrorists. They may be worse than the terrorists, because when the terrorists come, sometimes some of them will claim to be trying to convince you for their own ideology. They may not kill you. But these people, they come, they will start killing, kidnapping for ransom, and raping women. What they are doing is worse than the terrorists. So let them be flourished. That is all we want. Forget about all these rhetorics, all this tagging. It is not important to us. I'm a mathematician. When you call something an X or call it Y, it doesn't matter. What matters is, what are you going to process with the X or Y? That's all.
Well, I guess you being a mathematician, I mean, will definitely influence how you see things. But from the security perspective, the name is quite important, even for prosecution, profiling, and the rest. It is very important. But let me take this back to Honorable Shinkafi. So the conversation around the state of emergency, well, Mr. Maradon believes that it should be just for Zamfara state and not the whole northern region, that perhaps is taking it too far. But some will also ask that what will happen in a state of emergency that we have not quite seen already? Are we going to get more men recruited into the military? Because, I mean, the military is already in the theater of war as it seems right now. So what more will happen in a state of emergency?
Well, you see, what the Maradon was trying to say on the issue of state of emergency, maybe it's not conversant with what is happening across the northern Nigeria. If you look at what is happening in the northwest share border with Niger State, Kebbi State, Sokoto State, Katsina State, and Kaduna State. And most of these armed bandits have been hiding in this forest, in their various camps within the neighborhood of Zamfara State. So some of these bandits would perpetrate crime and criminality in Zamfara and run away to Niger State or Kaduna State or Kebbi State or Katsina State, even part of the Niger Republic. So the call for declaration of state of emergency cannot only be in Zamfara. The call which the governor of Zamfara State, Dr. Bello Maradon, made for declaration of state of emergency is long overdue. We should not be hiding. We should tell ourselves the truth. There is no doubt about it. The security situation is highly alarming in Nigeria, in the northern Nigeria. So what we're trying to say, the issue of armed banditry was inherited by Governor Bello Matoile. It was not Bello Matoile who is the architect of this armed banditry. Armed banditry was in existence for the first 7 to 8 years of the past administration. And because of the maladministration of the last administration, and he didn't treat it with the iron hand, and it has come to become out of hand, and it has escalated beyond Zamfara State and up to the neighbors. I'd
like us to stay on this really, because if you say, if I could just come in for a moment, pardon me. So I'd like us to stay on your point, saying that it's for the northern region that it's fit. Are you saying it should be declared in Kano, in Bauchi, for example, and some?
No. You see, like in Kano, they are not having the same problem we're having in Zamfara State, but they are having on an issue of the kidnapping, not on the way it was in the higher rate in Zamfara State. But what we're saying, even in Zamfara State, if you look at the northern, as I have told you, even in the northeast, the issue of insecurity, the ratio or the high rate of insecurity differentiate from Maiduguri, Yobe, and other part of the northern state. So likewise in the northwest, the issue of armed banditry, it is not as it is in Kano or in Jigawa. It is in the minimal level. But this Niger State, Kaduna State, Kebbi State, Sokoto State, and the Zamfara State in particular, which is like the epicenter of the armed banditry, because of the last administration, there is conspiracy of silence. The former administration refused to do anything and decided to be mute. It is on record. In the history of Nigeria, it is only in Zamfara State the former governor resigned as the chief security officer of the state, but continue to collect security report. So it is on this ground, because of the negligence and maladministration of the past administration, and now turns Zamfara to epicenter of armed banditry. And the governor has nothing to rely on is to call for declaration of state of emergency. We need heavy military presence. The military presence is not quite enough to fight these criminals in the soil of Zamfara State. Because
all right, Mr. Shinkafi,
more than 22 armed bandit camp in Zamfara State. and they need to be flushed out.
All right, Mr. Maradu, having heard what Mr. Shinkafi has said, does that shed some light on the challenges and perhaps possible ray of hope, having identified what the problems are, if you agree that those are the concerns?
Actually, yes. One good thing is that even Honorable Shinkafi has some, in a way, agreed with me that the suggestion of His Excellency that the state of emergency should be declared in the whole northern Nigeria is a faulty. At least he has some exceptions that he accepts the fact that the case of Zamfara cannot and should not be applied to Kanu, Jigawa, and Yobe, even Yobe, because they have come out of the level of the Boko Haram. We are now worse than Yobe. You cannot even apply the same thing to Bauchi and many other states in the northern Nigeria. What I'm saying is that this issue should be holistically approached. It should be. Each particular state has its own particular problem. So the issue is that I don't want to believe that we at the State can sit down and decide what will happen in Kanu, or what will happen in Bauchi, what will happen in Yobe, or what even will happen in Kabi. We know our problem. Let us tell our problem and accept it. Secondly, he accepted the fact that Zamfara is the epicenter of the problem. So that justifies the call for a state of emergency by His Excellency, the elected governor. But that cannot justify the same call for Kano State and Jigawa, because they are not the epicenter. In fact, their case is very minimum, and I think it's within control. Another thing which I observed is that, which is not new to me, but it may be new to our audience. Honorable Shinkafi has started his job, which they have been doing for the past 2 years. Instead of addressing the issue, they will be attacking past government. Past government has done this, past government has done that. The past government has done this and have done that. You came here with the pretense that you can correct the mistake. For the 2 years, you have only been repeating the same. I think I would suggest that we should forget about that one. Let us focus on the issue and suggest the way out. Repeating that it has happened 7 years or this one, I think that will not. In fact, let me even refer you to a lot of write-ups by Professor Sadiq Abubakar of the ABU Zaria. When you go there, you will see the history of banditry. It didn't start during the administration of Abdulaziz Yari Abubakar. Even recently, Yerima granted an interview. He made mention that banditry was around even during his own time. So please, let us stop that blame game and focus on the solution. I think that is what our people need, not the blame game.
Let me come to you, Honorable Shinkafi, and ask you what you make of the suggestions before now, instead of this state of emergency, that the governors of the Northwest need to come together and find a way to flush out the bandits, is the term you decided to use, the bandits from the forest. Before now, there had been concerted efforts on the part of the governors of the Northwest to secure the forests in the region, and that has yielded results. But in recent times, that has not been able to happen again, owing to a lack of cooperation amongst the governors of the Northwest. Would you say that all avenues have been exhausted before this call for a state of emergency?
Well, you see, the call for the state of emergency by His Excellency Executive Governor of Zamfara State, Dr. Bello Motola Maradu, it is just a part of the segment of the press conference he made. There was a 7 proactive measures. He came on board with it. He came with 7 proactive security measures to be used in tackling this armed banditry in Zamfara State. One of the proactive measures he came up with is for no sale of petroleum in Jakam. All filling stations close to the border are banned from selling petrol. All motorcyclists, that is the motorcycle operators, can only operate from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. in Gusau metropolis in the state capital. Then outside the Gusau metropolis, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Then another also measures all livestock market, all sales transportation of livestock in and outside the state are banned. All the weekly markets are all banned in the state. Then all no filling station is allowed to sell petrol to commercial vehicle more than 10,000 naira. And also the government is trying to come out with a civilian JTF to see how they can flush out these criminals. And the governor also met with service chiefs and met with Mr. President, trying to appeal to Mr. President.
My good sir, you're not quite addressing the question I have posed to you. I mean, first and foremost, you say that the measures which the governor have come up with are proactive. Some people will say no, they are reactive. The situation in Zamfara is such that it's given, cause for concern. And what he's trying to do is ensure that somehow he's able to limit the attacks. That cannot be termed proactive. That's one. The second is, I'm talking about cooperation with other governors. Of cooperating with other governors as was the case before now? That's the question I posed to you, sir.
No, I understood your question, but I'm trying to make a background of the questions. What I want trying to tell you, the cooperation between the Northwestern governors is still intact because the issue of security is everybody's business. On several occasions, the governors of Northwest have met under the leadership of the Katsina State Governor, Honorable Aminu Masari, and all the Northwest governors met in Kaduna and come out with the modalities how they are going to tackle this issue of armed banditry. And the cooperation is on, and they try to put all hands on deck to make sure that they have a cooperation and synergy to fight out these criminals and fight crime and criminality. So it is enforced, but they have started for, I think, a few years ago. Then some of the governors refused to donate some money for the net contribution for funding of the operation logistics. But I think with the situation we have at hand, they now come back and they're now trying to reunite and come out with another plans how to fight this thing. It's enforced, and the cooperation is still intact.
But I guess we'll wait to see whether the cooperation is really intact. But in terms of the measures which he's put in place right now, what has the by citizens? Because of course what you're trying to stop is illegitimate business and finding a way to fund the bandits. However, this is also going to affect legitimate businesses. Has there been a way to find how to balance the two? So for instance, when you say stopping weekly markets, stopping the number of markets or limiting the use of motorcycles, I mean, are there other options, and are there ways to also mitigate the effect of these measures on those citizens who are just trying to go about the legitimate business?
You see, most of the logistics supplied to the armed bandit camps bought their foodstuffs from this weekly market to the armed bandit camp. And most of this market, especially the livestock market, is weekly market, like in Shinkapi, then Sado, Mafara, Magami, Jangebe, and other part of the state. This main livestock market is where the bandits come and sell the cattle, the hostel for innocent citizens. So stopping the transportation of livestock, I think it will reduce the cattle rustling to the barest minimal level. And the issue of the use of motorcycle. Motorcycle is one of the major transportation system they use in perpetuating this crime. So the use of motorcycle was restricted from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. in the Gusau metropolis, that in the state capital, and also 6 a.m. from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. outside the state capital, in the local government area. So the issue of affecting the legitimacy of other businesses does not arise. This issue of security is everybody's business. When the federal government now made some restriction on COVID-19, religious centers were even closed down, markets were closed down, mosques and churches were closed down. So on this issue of security, I want you to bear in mind a lot of lives were lost. Property worth billions of naira were destroyed by this armed bandit. And a lot of money were paid, ransom was paid in billions. So this is a hard time for the citizens of this state to cooperate with the government to make sure that peace is restored in Zamfara state. It's not in doubt.
Let me quickly ask Honorable Maradun what he makes of these measures, whether he thinks that they're going to be very effective. Honorable Maradun, if you can do this in about a minute, it will be very helpful.
Before I go on to that measures, let me maybe talk a bit about the cooperation between the Northwestern governors. Of course, there should be some a level of cooperation between them. I can recall in one interview granted by the Kaduna State Governor, he vividly and eloquently stated the kind of cooperation they are having. Particularly, he mentioned Niger State, they exchange intelligence and whatever. And also, both the Kaduna State Governor and of course, even the chairman of the Northwestern Governors Forum, Right Honorable Aminu Bello Masari of Katsina State, and recently the Governor of Niger State, have been complaining about the influx of the bandits from the side of the Zamfara state. So one will wonder, what is wrong? What is wrong with the cooperation? How? What happened? But the crux of the matter is that even among the governors there is this, what I can, if you can allow me to call it, some ideological difference. They belong to two different schools of thought as far as how to deal with the banditry is concerned in the past. While in our state, our government believes that dialogue with the bandits pays. Many of the state governors did not accept that. And I think this is too fundamental to say that there is the required cooperation between the two, between the North State governors and the governments. So what I would rather suggest is that let the federal government intervene. Let the federal government come and lead the states that are affected, particularly the Northwestern states, so that they can have a common front on how to deal and end this problem. I think that will be better. There should be a moderator, because when there are two different views, then a moderator is required to harmonize the view so that
just quickly, I mean,
peace will be attained.
We're already out of time, but I want to quickly ask you if you think the measures he's put in place will work.
You see, no right-thinking individual will question the measures, any measure taken by the government, so long as it is aimed at bringing about security in the citizens, to the citizens. But I want us to know that the issue of security is very delicate and require much more delicate measures, because a slight mistake may tilt the balance to the other side. These measures, if I can suggest, should be reviewed, because they were once taken before, and I don't want to believe that the way and manner it was hastily proclaimed, enough diagnosis has been done on them. I don't want the situation whereby the ecosystem will be made tense to such a way that even the law-abiding citizens will feel pressurized.
All right, Mr. Ahmed Maradun, we do thank you very much indeed. We have to go at this point. Ahmed Maradun, former Commissioner for Commerce, Zamfara State, as well as Abdullahi Shinkafi, who is the Honorary Special Advisor on Intergovernmental Affairs.